ولا تعجل بالقرآن من قبل أن يقضى إليك وحيه وقل رب زدني علما.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. So carrying on then with Al-Aqeedah Al-Wasitiyyah, the section that we arrived at now was where Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah was about to start explaining the Aqeedah of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, because he had said, أما بعد فهذا اعتقاد الفرقة الناجية المنصورة إلى قيام الساعة أهل السنة والجماعة، وهو الإيمان بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله والبعث بعد الموت وبالقدر خيره وشره، ومن الإيمان بالله الإيمان بما وصف به نفسه ووصفه به رسوله محمد. He says, and that is, meaning the Aqeedah of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, it is firstly al-Eeman in Allah, Eeman in Allah, and in His angels, and in His books, and in His messengers, and in the resurrection after death, and in the qadr, it's good and it's bad, the decree. And then he continues to explain further. So here now, he says the Aqeedah of Ahlul Sunnah is to have Eeman in Allah. What is Eeman? Linguistically speaking, it means at-tasdeeq, to believe in something. But when we talk about Eeman, often the scholars mention there is something a bit more than just believing in something. It is believing in something, but having an acknowledgement and submission to that affair, that you will accept and you will submit to that matter, to your understanding of that affair. Meaning in this context, that you believe in Allah, you have Eeman in Allah, meaning you will submit yourself to Allah and you will be in submission before Him and be upon humility before Him. So there is something a little extra than just saying belief. So Eeman, it is to believe, but it is also to have that acknowledgement of something, to have that testification and acknowledgement of something which necessitates accepting the news that comes and submitting to the rulings that come. So you have Eeman in Allah. And when we talk about Eeman in Allah, then there are three main aspects to the Eeman in Allah. And those three main aspects in your belief in Allah are, of course, the belief in the rububiyyah of Allah, the lordship of Allah, that Allah alone is the creator, the provider, the sustainer, the one who gives life and death, the one who controls the universe, Allah alone. So you single out Allah with His actions. That is the rububiyyah of Allah, the lordship of Allah. To single out Allah with His actions. What are His actions? Creation as an example, that Allah alone created all of the universe, everything that exists, nobody else besides Him. And that Allah alone gives life and death, the action of giving life and death, Allah alone, nobody else. The action of controlling all of the universe and decreeing everything that happens in it, an action that is done by Allah alone, nobody else. These are just examples. The point being, all of the actions that are specific to Allah, those are some examples. All of those actions that are specific to Allah, you must make them specific to Allah. To single out Allah with those actions of His. That is known as the Tawheed of Lordship. The Tawheed of Ar-Rububiyyah. That is one aspect of your Eeman in Allah. Another aspect of your Eeman in Allah is known as Al-Uluhiyyah. The Tawheed of Al-Uluhiyyah. And that is to single out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our actions. This time, our actions. We single out Allah with our actions. And what are our actions? They are all of our worship. All of our worship that we do, whether it is worship from the heart, whether it is worship upon the tongue, whether it is worship upon the limbs, all of the worship that we do, we single it out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the Tawheed of Al-Uluhiyyah. And that is one aspect of your Eeman in Allah. The third aspect is, of course, Tawheedul Asma'i was Sifat. The Tawheed regarding the names and attributes of Allah. The Tawheed regarding the names and the attributes of Allah. That Allah has the most perfect and beautiful of names and attributes of perfection, that we single out Allah with those beautiful and perfect names and attributes, and nobody is comparable or equal to Allah in that. That is another aspect of your Tawheed, another aspect of your Eeman in Allah. So when you talk about Eeman in Allah, the first section here, then Eeman in Allah, it covers those three aspects. Eeman in the Rububiyyah of Allah, Eeman in the Uluhiyyah of Allah, and Eeman in the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is a brief understanding of our belief in Allah. But like we said, the belief in Allah, Eeman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is more than just saying, I believe in the Rububiyyah of Allah, and I believe in the Uluhiyyah of Allah, and I believe in the names and attributes of Allah. Remember, we said the Eeman in Allah in these regards is that you then submit yourself in those affairs, meaning you submit to the Tawheed of Allah in those aspects, and you believe and you behave and you do your worship in accordance to that Eeman in Allah, in accordance to that Tawheed in all of those different aspects. So you do not associate partners alongside Allah, and you do not call alongside Allah others. You do not call upon the dead. You do not call upon the inhabitants of the graves. You call upon Allah alone. You do your worship to Allah alone. You do not associate partners alongside Him in creation or any affair. You submit to Allah upon that tawheed. So that is the first aspect mentioned here. The Eeman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is something which is clear. The Eeman in Allah. Mankind was created upon that natural disposition, the innate nature of recognizing his Lord. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, كل مولود يولد على الفطرة. Every newborn is born upon that natural disposition, the innate nature of knowing Allah. Then ثم أبواه يهودانه أو ينصرانه أو يمجسانه. Then it is his parents that will perhaps take him upon Christianity or Judaism or fire worship or whatever it may be. But a person is born upon that innate nature of knowing his Lord. And when mankind was first created, from the first person, Adam alayhi salam, they were created upon Tawheed. Adam alayhi salam and the first 10 generations, all of them upon Tawheed, as the narration of Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma states in Sahih al-Bukhari, كان بين آدم ونوح 10 قرون كلهم على التوحيد. Between Adam and Nuh alayhim as-salam were 10 generations, all of them upon Tawheed. So the belief in Allah, that is the basis of it all. All of these other aspects of Eeman, they return back to the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the head of the affair. The belief in the angels, the books, the messengers, everything else which comes, returns back to the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Returns back to the belief in the Creator, the Lord, the One, the Mighty, the Majestic. So Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah begins by highlighting the Aqeedah of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah is, firstly, at the head, belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then after that, وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ, and belief in the angels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the angels of Allah, the malaika, that word malaika, the word in Arabic for angels, it comes from the root word, the single word of mal'ak. And the root meaning of mal'ak is ma'lak. And that is all from the meaning of al-uluka. These are all derivations of the word in the Arabic language, and they all mean the message, messengership. Meaning the angels of Allah are the messengers of Allah. They are the messengers of Allah. They are the army of Allah. They are the ones that fulfill the commandments of Allah, fulfill their various duties and their responsibilities. And Jibreel alayhi salam literally is the messenger bringing the message to the prophets and the messengers. And the angels, as Shaykh al-Uthaymin rahimahullah ta'ala mentions, al-malaikatu alamun ghaybi. The angels are an unseen world, an unseen creation. They are from the unseen to us. We don't see the angels. We don't see the world of the angels. So they are unseen to us. but they are a creation from the creations of Allah. They are a world, a creation that Allah has made, just like the creation of the humans and the creation of the jinn. There is the creation of the angels, and they have been created from light. خَلَقَهُمُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ مِن نُور. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them from light. وَجَعَلَهُمْ طَائِعِينَ لَهُ مُتَذَلِّلِينَ لَهُ. And Allah made them in submission to Him. They are in humility and submission before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلِكُلٍّ مِّنْهُمْ وَظَائِفٌ خَصَّهُ اللَّهُ بِهَا. And all of the angels, they have different jobs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has apportioned to them. أولاً, so some of them that we know, one example is of course Jibreel. And the job of Jibreel is what then? To convey the revelation. مُوَكَّلٌ بِالْوَحِي. He is the one who has been given the responsibility of the revelation. He brings the revelation to the prophets and the messengers. So he is مُوَكَّلٌ بِالْوَحِي يَنزِلُ بِهِ مِنَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى إِلَى الرُّسُلِ. He comes down with that revelation, descends with that revelation from Allah to the prophets and messengers. Another example, Israfil. So what is the job of Israfil? That he is the angel who has been given the responsibility of blowing into the horn on the day of judgment. Blowing into the horn which will signal the beginning of the day of judgment. So Israfil, by consensus of the scholars, is the one who is muwakkalun bin nafkhi fi sur. He is the one who has been given the responsibility to blow into the horn for the day of judgment to commence. He has another job too. What is the other job that he has too? He is also one of the angels who will carry the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's mentioned that there are angels who carry the throne of Allah on that day. And so Israfil is one of the angels mentioned who will carry the throne of Allah on that day. Another example, Mikail. And what is the responsibility of Mikail? The rainfall. So huwa muwakkalun bil qatr wan nabat. He is the one who has been given the responsibility of the rainfall and the vegetation and the growth. That rainfall that creates or helps to then produce the vegetation and the growth. That responsibility of the rainfall, it is upon Mikail. So you have three examples there so far. Three examples there so far. Jibreel, Israfil, Mikail. The job of Jibreel is the revelation. The job of Israfil is to blow into the horn for the resurrection. The job of Mikail is the rainfall and the growth and the vegetation thereafter. What is the connection between those three angels? All of their jobs are connected to life. They all have a connection to life. How? Because Jibreel alayhi salam brings the revelation. So that is life of the heart. All of them, their jobs are connected somehow to the issue of life. Jibreel alayhi salam, because he is the one with the responsibility to bring the revelation. That revelation brings us life of our hearts, life in our hearts with guidance. Israfil blows into the trumpet to commence the day of resurrection. That brings us life of the afterlife. Because when the resurrection occurs, then the afterlife begins. So that is a connection to life. It is the life which will occur in the next life. And Mikael, his responsibility with the rainfall, etc., is life physically of the bodies. You need that water, you need that rainfall, you need that vegetation, the fruits, what grows. All of that is life of the bodies physically. So, Shaykh al-Uthaymin mentions, هؤلاء الثلاثة كلهم موكلون بما فيه حياة. That all these three angels are given responsibilities with affairs that are connected to life within them. That's the connection between those three angels in the responsibilities that they've been given. Then we also know of the jobs of some of the other angels too. There is, for example, the angel of death. كذلك نعلم أن منهم من وكل بقبض أرواح بني آدم. So the angel of death has been given the responsibility of taking the souls of the children of Adam. The taking of that soul signals death. So we know of the angel of death with the responsibility of taking the souls. And the angel of death, his name often mentioned by the people is Israel. But that is actually a mistake. Because Israel, there is a hadith, but it's a weak hadith. So we cannot say that the name of the angel of death is Israel. Rather we say his name is Malakul Maut, the angel of death. As for Israel, then it's a narration that is weak and we cannot use that to determine that the angel of death is called Israel. So we simply say the angel of death. And the angel of death has many other angels as his helpers. The angel of death has many other angels with him as his helpers. It mentions in the Quran in Surah Al-An'am, ayah number 61. حتى إذا جاء أحدكم الموت توفته رسلنا وهم لا يفرطون. That when death comes to one of you, then our messengers create that or take that soul. Our messengers. The plural is used in the ayah. That when death comes to that person, it is our messengers. Meaning the multiple angels. Many angels take the soul and that person dies. That's what the ayah indicates. But then there is another ayah, Surah Sajdah, number 11. قُلْ يَتَوَفَّاكُمْ مَلَكُ الْمَوْتِ الَّذِي وُكِّلَ بِكُمْ. That say, the one who makes that death then occur by the command of Allah is the angel of death who has been appointed upon you. So this ayah indicates it is the angel of death. Whereas the previous ayah indicated many angels all do that job of taking the soul. And then there is even another ayah, Zumar 42, Allahu yatawaffa al-anfusa hina mawtiha. Allah is the one who brings death upon the souls at the time of their death. So one ayah, that last one, is mentioning Allah brings that death upon them. The other ayah was saying the angel of death does it, takes the soul by the command of Allah. The other ayah was saying many angels all take the soul. So how does it work? How do we combine between all of these ayat? The scholars, they say, لا منافات بين هذه الآيات الثلاث. There is no contradiction between these three ayat. فإن الملائكة تقبض الروح فإن ملك الموت إذا أخرجها من البدن تكون عنده ملائكة إن كان الرجل من أهل الجنة فيكون معهم حنوط من الجنة وكفن من الجنة يأخذون هذه الروح الطيبة ويجعلونها في هذا الكفن ويسعدون بها إلى الله عز وجل. The angel of death, he is the one that takes the soul out by the command of Allah. Once he takes that soul out, then all of the other angels take it from there. So the angel of death by the command of Allah takes the soul, and thereafter the other angels take it on from there. So that's how the ayat all make sense then. They are all clear. Allah is the one who gives the command upon the death of a person. Allah is the one who decrees that. The angel of death takes the soul, and then the other angels take it on from him and do the rest. So that way, all of it makes sense about how the angels are involved. So the Shaykh says, Shaykh al-Uthaymin, rahimahullah, هؤلاء موكلون بقبض الروح من ملك الموت إذا قبضها. That these angels are given the responsibility of taking the soul, so they take it from the angel of death once he has taken it out. The angel of death takes the soul out, then the other angels take it from him and take it on from there. Then other examples of jobs of the angels. وَمِنْهُمْ مَلَائِكَةٌ صَيَّاحُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ يَلْتَمِسُونَ حِلَقَ الذِّكْرِ. That there are other angels who wander upon the earth looking for the circles and the gatherings of the remembrance of Allah. That they go upon the gatherings of the remembrance of Allah. And إذا وجدوا حلقة العلم والذكر جلسوا. And when they find a gathering of knowledge, a gathering of the remembrance of Allah, then they sit. They sit with those gatherings, around those gatherings of knowledge and remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is a hadith which is in Al-Bukhari and Muslim from Abu Hurraira radiyallahu anhu. إن لله ملائكة يطوفون في الطرق يلتمسون أهل الذكر فإذا وجدوا قوما يذكرون الله تعالى تنادوا هلموا إلى حاجتكم قال فيحفونهم بأجنحتهم إلى السماء الدنيا. واللفظ للبخاري. That there are angels who wander upon the earth seeking out the gatherings of the remembrance of Allah. And if they find a group of people remembering Allah in a circle, in a gathering, then they call out, come to your need. And so the angels, they come and they surround that gathering with their wings up to the heaven of the earth. So this indicates that there are angels who sit upon the gatherings of knowledge or surround the gatherings of knowledge, the gatherings of the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Similarly, other angels. There are angels that have been given the responsibility of writing the deeds of people, writing the actions and the deeds of people. وكذلك هناك ملائكة يكتبون أعمال الإنسان. There are angels that write down the deeds of a person, and it's mentioned in Al-Infitar, وَإِنَّ عَلَيْكُمْ لَحَافِظِينَ كِرَامًا كَاتِبِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ مَا تَفْعَلُونَ. That indeed upon you are the guardians, noble writing, noble writers, and they know what you do. They are writing down, the noble guardians upon you, writing it all down, what you do, your actions, your statements. Also in Qaf, number 18, ما يلفظ من قول إلا لديه رقيب عتيد. That he does not utter a word except that there is with him a guardian over him, the angel, writing down what he says and what he does. It's mentioned in a narration, دخل أحد أصحاب الإمام أحمد عليه وهو مريض رحمه الله. That on one occasion Al-Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala was ill. So somebody from the Salaf at the time, they came to visit him. And when they came to visit him, they found فَوَجَدَهُ يَئِنُّ مِنَ الْمَرَضِ. They found that Al-Imam Ahmad was making a noise from the illness. Meaning when a person is ill and they're in pain, then you often hear the person making some slight noises, grunt type of noise, when you might do that kind of noise from the pain, from the illness. And you have that kind of noise that you make from being ill and from being in pain. So Al-Imam Ahmad was doing that. He was in that pain, he was in that illness. So there was that type of noise emanating from him when you're in difficulty, you're in pain. فَقَالَ لَهُ. So the one who visited him said to him, يَا أَبَا عَبْدِ اللَّهِ. Oh, Abu Abdullah, ta'in, that you're making this type of noise and grunting from that pain or the illness. وَقَدْ قَالَ طَاوُوسٌ. How are you making this noise? And Tawus said, إِنَّ الْمَلَكَ يَكْتُبُ حَتَّى أَنِينَ الْمَرِيضِ. That the angels, they write down even this noise that you make in the illness. They write even that. They write down even that. لأن الله يقول, because Allah says, ما يلفظ من قول إلا لديه رقيب عتيد. That he does not utter a word except that there is a guardian upon him. So even that is written. فجعل أبو عبد الله يتصبر. So then Imam Ahmad remained patient. Even with the pain and the difficulty, remained silent. And didn't make any sound or any noise thereafter. Because he didn't want that to be written. Because it could be a sign of a lack of patience. Could be a sign of a lack of patience. He didn't want that to be written upon him. So he remained silent and remained patient even with the pain and the difficulty of the illness. فَتَرَكَ الْأَنِينَ لِأَنَّ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ يُكْتَبْ. So he left that noise and what was coming from him because everything is written. Also from the angels that we know of, angels that are in guardianship over the people generally. Not the ones writing, but the angels who are in guardianship over a person generally. منهم أيضا ملائكة يتعاقبون على بني آدم في الليل والنهار. That there are angels who take turns upon the servants of Allah in guarding them and protecting them. And there is a narration how some of the angels are with you from Fajr up until Asr. and then at Asr time they leave, and others they come to be with you from Asr till Fajr. So when the angels who have been with you from Fajr till Asr leave, and the new ones are gonna come, they say, how did you leave? Or Allah says, how did you leave my servant? They say, we left him upon the prayer, Asr time. And the new angels, they come. Then when those angels leave him at Fajr time, they say, we left the servant upon Fajr prayer. But as for the one who doesn't pray his Fajr, or misses his Fajr, or misses his Asr, then what therefore of his state? This narration highlights the importance and the virtue of those two prayers as an example, and there are virtues mentioned of the prayers generally too. So there are angels that guard over the person and preserve the person in that way too. Other angels that we know of as well, angels that are upon the obedience and worship to Allah in the heavens, in ruku' and in prostration to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the heavens, in prayer, in ruku', in prostration. And there are narrations mentioning how there is not even 4 fingers worth of space in the heavens, except that there are angels everywhere upon the obedience and the worship of Allah, upon the prostration of Allah. In another narration, it highlights the great numbers of these angels. There is Baityl Ma'mur in the heavens, which is directly above the Kaaba in the earth. The Kaaba in the earth, up, directly up and up and up into the heavens, Baityl Ma'mur, where the angels go, 70,000 every day go to Baityl Ma'mur in the heavens, and they do their worship. And in some narrations it mentions they do tawaf, etc. 70,000 every day. They leave the next day, 70,000 new ones come. They leave the next day, 70,000 new ones come. Every day, 70,000 new ones. 1,000 has been in there and they leave. They never get a chance to come back again, because every single day there is a new group of 70,000 going in. So what therefore of the numbers of the angels? Every day, 70,000 new ones, not repeat ones, new ones. Consider the great numbers of the angels. It is inconsiderable to us. We cannot enumerate the number of angels. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ جُنُودَ رَبِّكَ إِلَّا هُ. Nobody can count or knows of the army of your Lord except He. And there are also other angels who are in responsibility of the hellfire and in responsibility of paradise. There are angels mentioned with those jobs as well, and there are ayat that indicate those jobs too. So these are the angels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have Eeman in. A person may say, are the angels living beings, have intellect like us? Are they like living beings with intelligence like us? We have intelligence, we understand, we know. Are they like that? The Shaykh said, if somebody asks you, do the angels have intelligence, intellect? You should say to him, have you got any intellect? Meaning, what kind of a question is that? Of course the angels have intellect, intelligence upon the obedience and worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are the angels. In terms of their physical appearance, they have wings. جَاعِلِ الْمَلَائِكَةِ رُسُلًا أُولِي أَجْنِحَةٍ. That they are angels whom Allah has made with wings. Some of them with 2, some of them with 3, some of them with 4, some of them with more. Wings in 2s and 3s and 4s and more. Jibreel alayhi salam, when he was seen upon his appearance, had 600 wings that covered the horizon. So that is the Eeman in the angels of Allah. Today then we've covered Eeman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also Eeman in the angels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Next time we'll begin with Eeman in the books of Allah, and the messengers of Allah, and the day of judgment also. But we'll round off on that point for today. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.